Hey, Tim Sykes here, and I wanted to do a video lesson. I'm getting a ton of questions from confused newbies. This is the S&P 500. We've had a nice bounce off the lows, but really the past few days has been absolutely terrible. The Nasdaq, even worse performing. We're losing basically weeks of strength all in 4 days. Frankly, I was surprised that the market, kept dropping towards the end of the week, but again, we also have bounced quite a bit. People are sending me articles like, this is the worst week in months. What are we going to do? And for me, it's like, I don't know why everyone's so confused. I don't know what's going on, because for me, I made roughly 2 grand on the week, which is, nothing huge, but this is pretty much what I've been averaging all year. 2 grand a week is pretty good. It's roughly 100 grand on the year. Trading very small, trading very safely, selling too soon. But low stress, low risk relatively. Obviously, I'm still trading, penny stocks, so nothing is completely low risk, but I do think that there's a way to be safe. And I think a lot of it is knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. So leave a comment below if you want to learn how to trade safe, if you want to learn how to trade small, if you want to trade with low stress, and if you just promise not to believe any of the BS that's out there. I think that's the biggest problem. We saw, penny stock promoters get busted in the past few days, and a lot of people didn't even know that they were promoters. Like I'm getting a lot of people message me being like, how did you know? I can't believe I fell for it. Just expect the worst out of everybody. That's really like the number one rule. And I know it's cynical. I'm a positive person, but remember, we're in an industry that's full of BS. Like, I can't tell you how many traders don't even show all of their trades. They don't even show their real names. So, I think a big problem is people believing others, where it's like, oh, I trust, purple dinosaur 432. Wait a minute, you mean purple dinosaur 432 wasn't telling me the truth? And you're like, are you serious? So I think it's kind of like a wake-up call. Some people ask like, wow, you're doing a lot of video lessons. Yeah, because I'm getting so many confused people, because I warned about the promoters, over a year ago. And a lot of people, every time the promoters get busted, they come back to me and they're like, wow, I wish I would have listened to you. And it's like, I'm not in this for an I told you so. I'm just like, how do I get through to you so that you realize that my cynical take on the market is actually accurate? Don't believe people with random screen names. Don't trust traders who don't show every single trade. Don't trade as a group. There's all these little groups that pop up, and I'm pretty consistent in my message where if somebody asks me like, hey, what do you think about this group? What do you think about this group? And I'm like, trading is an individual sport. I am always concerned, always, whenever traders group together and they're like, yeah, but we're friends. We all have like this little Discord chat room. And, I know that trading is lonely. I know that, it's only natural to want to group to other people. But the problem is, because most people lose in this industry, whoever you group to, there's like a 9 out of 10 chance that you're just going to group with a loser. And again, I know how cynical this sounds. Even like my top students, at the Miami conference, they're like, yeah, talk to everybody. One conversation can change your life. And I like that positivity, but I think probably because I've talked to more people than anybody else in this industry, and I see how many people lose and how misguided most people are, I don't want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to data. I want to talk to history. I want every single person watching this to study history more. So why do I make so many video lessons when a promoter gets busted? Because it's an opportunity to learn. Because everyone's little, world view and penny stock view and stock market view has been changed a little bit. My view hasn't changed, because again, it's not a question of if these penny stock promoters are going to get busted, it's when. It's not a question of if these penny stock pumps are going to crash, it's when. You start to learn there are some really, really good not 100% certainties, but really, really good probabilities in this market. And you can start to trade around those probabilities. And again, I know how this sounds. I know that I sound very negative, but I think it's actually comforting to know that there are, some really good probabilities. Like, that 90% plus of traders are going to lose. That 99% of penny stock pumps, if there's enough promoters involved, somebody is paying the promoters with shares or cash. So why are they not putting that money or shares into actually building the business? Because there is no business, right? Like the insiders know that it's going to crash, but they're just trying to get the stock up so that they can sell their shares, whether it's the company management or, a third party. Anytime a promoter is hired, it's the kiss of death. And again, you can, I'll link to these video lessons so you can watch them. But again, my little, $2,000 on the week, trading predictable patterns, dip buying, morning panics on promoted stocks. Okay. Mind you, it's not like I'm saying like, oh, penny stocks are so evil, stay away from them. I'm saying, no, penny stocks are predictable. Be cynical, but by all means, enjoy the predictability created by promoters. And I know that's an extra step for a lot of people. Some people say, Tim, you're all negative. Everyone's going to fail. Everyone's going to lose. So just don't trade in the first place. Nah. I think that if you trade these kinds of plays very cynically, you can do well. I'll tell you, my best trade of the week was where I sold it the soonest. I mean, this was like a 20% gain. And I bought this DPLS when they, this is a promoted stock. The CEO blocked me like a while ago when I called it a supernova. And this was probably my best trade percentage-wise on the week. I had still only made a few $100s because I'm trading really small. I only got a partial position. But, DPLS spiked because they said, hey, we're going on the NASDAQ. And, 100 days looks terrible. 1 year looks terrible. 2 years looks even worse. This is when the CEO blocked me and said that they weren't a supernova. And I was like, yeah, you are. And it's, played out exactly like a supernova. Mind you, too, this is the thing. Like some people say like, oh, you said it's a supernova. It should just go down completely. But people who say that don't study my 7-step framework, right? Like a big part of supernovas is that they can bounce again. It's not like they can't bounce ever again. So DPLS, I buy former supernovas and they announced they're going on the NASDAQ. I didn't anticipate that it was going to go from, basically a penny to 2 pennies. I didn't know that there was going to be 100% upside, so some people say like, how is this your best trade? You sold it, 30, 40% too soon. I don't mind underestimating. And this goes to my point where like, some people will say, Tim, like you're a multimillionaire. You've been trading for 2 decades and you're proud of a lousy $2,000 on the week? And my answer is yes, because I got a partial position. I'm playing overly safe. Like I said, started off this video, I think there's a way to be overly safe and overly cynical and have less stress. Leave a comment below. Do you want like low stress, safe type trading? Because I think that you can still make money that way. A lot of my new millionaire students, they don't even like the way that I teach or trade because, they've pushed it, they've made millions and they're trading more aggressively. They're trading like the triple Qs and ETFs, 3-time leverage ETFs, and they like the gambling. But I think that, if they went back and actually looked at what made them into millionaires, it wouldn't be the gambling stocks and the gambling plays so much. I think people lose track of that. When you talk to traders, everyone is like proud to be a gambler. Like, yeah, we're a degen. And I'm like, no, being a degenerate is a bad thing. But they like make fun of it. They're like, oh, made 30K, lost 50K because I'm a degen. And I'm like, I'm over here trying to teach safe trading. And it's funny how like some of my top students have like been like, no, I want to gamble. Listen, gamble all you want. Just, don't forget what made you a millionaire in the first place. And I see not even just millionaire students, but like students who have made 5 or 6 figures, forgetting really what made them. And shout out to Eduardo. I'm going to do a post in a little bit on how he is my newest, millionaire challenge student. And he has not become a degen. He takes, might take a lot of trades, but he's taking small gains, small losses. And it's a very stressful way of trading for him. Like, he's making an average of like 2-3K a week right now, but he's doing it not in a way trading promoted stocks. He's still using the 7-step framework, but he's using hotkeys. And I'll go into that in a little bit. But right now, I just want to go over my kinds of trades. And I see the problems that people have, like with DPLS. People are like, you underestimated, this is a terrible trade. I don't mind underestimating it. Again, as a teacher, I have a different goal than most people watching this. Most people watching this just want to be millionaires. You don't care how you do it. Like, come on, just want to be a millionaire, just want to get rich. Teach me how to do that. But as I've said, pretty much all of 2022, some years are better for earning, some years are better for learning. And I think this is a good year for learning. And I really think a lot of people will be well served to get back to OTCs and get back to the basics. Jack Kellogg, funny enough, like, a few days ago, he took basically nearly $1 million in losses on his swings. I checked in on him to see if he was okay. He's doing it all right. He's still up over $1 million on the year, so don't cry for him. But it was a good wake-up call, I think, where he got a little too aggressive with speculative trades. And he's pushing himself. That's how he's made over 10 million. But sometimes you can push yourself too far. And someone said, or I said, come back to the OTCs. And he responded, no, you can only make like 5 or 10K a day on OTCs. And now for him as like an 8-figure student turned like master trader, 5 or 10K a day isn't interesting. Versus, he doesn't realize it because he's just talking from his perspective, but like 99.9% of you would love to make 5 or 10K in a day. Or 5 or 10K in a week. Let alone that, or 5 or 10K in a month. So I see how everyone has all these, perspectives, and I'm trying to teach a safe way. By all means, you can get more aggressive later on. Feel free to be a degen after you make, $1 million or $2 million, and then you can put aside some money. But like when you're struggling, or when you're just beginning, I think it's really good to focus on these plays. CGRA, this is, frankly, it hasn't really bounced that much. But I'm really proud of myself earlier in the week, and you can go watch all my video lessons. It's just kind of like a recap. But I was saying, like, when it was in the 3s, I thought that it could get down to the 2s, which it did. And, this was a nice little 35% bounce. Not much, but some people say, like, why is it dropping so much and not bouncing? Well, they teased that they were coming out with news. And then they actually came out with the news, and the reaction was pretty terrible. And if you watch enough of my videos, DVDs, video lessons, webinars, watch lists, commentary, blog posts, you'll know that there's a thing called buy the rumor, sell the news. So it doesn't matter how positive the news is, it might have already been priced in. And remember, CGRA, even though it's like around 3 cents, it's still triple what it was just a few weeks ago. Perspective. But when it gets up to 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 cents, you think that, the world is going to, just open up and it can go to $1, like the promoters say. Talking about a few promoted stocks, MMTLP, I think this caused a lot of, people to be confused. By the way, this is the former TRCH, the penny stock promoters, Zach Morris and all of them used to promote TRCH. So let's not forget what MMTLP is and what MMAT is. They're promoted stocks. They've gone up, but, now they're dropping. There's this whole conspiracy theory with MMTLP. Where, it dropped big and then FINRA halted the stock. And so there's endless posts how FINRA is a fraud, stock market is a fraud. And I'm like, guys, this fits the 7-step framework, even when I was buying it. Oh, this is the funny thing. I was buying it as a short squeeze here because it was a technical breakout, which fits my 7-step framework. You buy the breakouts on the left side of the chart. And when I was like warning that, it's going to crash because it's a promo, in a former promo, and like, they're like, oh, you pumped it. Like, you're part of the Zach Morris crew. Calling a stock a short squeeze and buying a breakout is not pumping it. I never said this is going to like 100 or 1,000. This is what Zach Morris and penny stock promoters do. They come up with like 10, 20, 30 times price targets to lure in the financially naive. I specifically said, watch $7.60, and I bought the breakout here at $7.60, and I actually sold it in the 8s. I was dead on with this breakout, and I sold it too soon. Then I rebought it here, and I was buying the breakout here at 10. Jack Kellogg was shorting it noticeably, and I was like, I wouldn't short it, like it's going to go higher, but he's like, no, it's a scam, it's going to drop. And then I bought it at 10, and like it looked like it was crashing a little bit, so I sold for a small loss. And Jack Kellogg in the chat room was like, Sykes just bought the top, and then it hit like 12, a little later. He wasn't wrong that, it was near the top. But like I said, I'm buying the short squeeze. So I think that it's important to understand how a play can spike up and how a play can drop really hard and how it can get halted too. I stand by my short squeeze statement, not saying that it's going to go to 100, not saying that it's going to go to 1,000. And I stand by all the warnings that I gave when you can clearly see this is the left side of the chart and then this is the right side, otherwise known as the front side and the back side. And I gave endless warnings how it's on the back side. I might dip by the morning panics, as like I do with the number 5 pattern for my 7-step framework, but be careful. I didn't know that, FINRA was going to halt it. I didn't know it was going to drop 80% in 2 days. Before the 80% drop, by the way, some people say, well, Tim, why don't you just short it if it's going to drop? Before this 80% drop in 2 days, it actually did have this one green day where it doubled in like an hour. So I don't short, okay? I really, the last stock I shorted was GTII, here on this crazy day because it was just up too much, which actually turned out to be the top. And I shorted it right near the top here. But aside from GTII, I haven't made it one short in months. And before GTII, all I shorted was Robinhood. Just because I think that they're, a really scummy, unethical company. And I actually lost on the short. I got a little too emotional when it was, what was it? It's more than 120 days ago. I don't know, somewhere here in the teens. It was one of these plays, and I lost a few hundred. But GTII was a good short because it was just up too much. MMTLP, just because I call it a promo and a former promo, and just because I'm not pissed that FINRA halted it, I never shorted it. And I don't think shorting a very sketchy, choppy play like this is easy. This was before the 70-80% crash, this was the one day where it basically doubled in an hour. So if you are a short seller, don't be offended by my warnings of low stress and low risk. Do what you want to do. But for me, this kind of price action is too stressful, even if it led to a big drop. But again, everyone who thinks that FINRA's at fault for MMTLP, no, they're not. There's no conspiracy theory here. You're just believing promoters. And I stand by that. Promoters are so evil. They just brainwash newbies. I don't even know if, I'm actually fighting with real people on Twitter or if they're just promoter bots designed to make it look like other people believe this. That's how corrupt this is. Like, there's so many fake accounts. Atlas Trading, they had all these fake accounts on Twitter and fake accounts on Discord, and they make people think like, wow, like this must be right. There's a lot of people who believe in it. And really it's just like mass delusions. Now the same thing is happening with COSM. And this is why I made this video. I know that I'm just talking a lot, but I see a lot of confusion. I was ripping on this promoter. His name is Frank the Tank, or I call him Frank the Tank because all of his promos tank. Here, they did a reverse split. Frank the Tank was saying like, no, there's not going to be a reverse split. He's supposedly like in contact with the company. He's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. The 25 for 1 reverse split, like when it opened up here, I mean, it was down like 50% on the morning. And that's when I was like calling out Frank the Tank, right in here, like at $4 a share. Let's just do some basic math. 4 divided by 25. This was at 16 cents. Even when it spiked, mind you, it spiked from 60 cents to $4. So the promoters and a lot of traders are like, what are you talking about, Sykes? This is a good play because it's up so much off the lows. But even at $4 a share with the, 25 for 1 reverse split or 1 for 25 reverse split, like it opened at 16 cents. And COSM before this was, I think it got up to nearly $1. So it's down 70, 80%. But this is the beautiful thing about the framework, and this is why I made this video lesson. I'm not wrong to rip on Frank the Tank for being, a scumbag, and who knows whether he's in contact with the company. Like, it's all very gray area with these promoters. I don't know, what's going on. When a promoter is hired, someone hired them to get the share price up. Why do you get the share price up? Because you want to sell it. So I'm very, very worried whenever a promoter is hired. Also, Frank got on my radar because he was claiming that I was shorting CLNV, which I never shorted. CLNV was like a 5, 10, 15 cent stock. I haven't shorted any stock under $8 a share in the last 2 years. That just, makes me understand that he's a lying sack of crap like promoter. But here's the thing. when I ripped on him in saying, wow, like your pump is down 70, 80%, like all these other pumps, the stock then short squeezed from 4 up to like, what was the high? 24. Like it went up 6 times in the course of the day. And then I started getting all the hate from Frank the Tank and his like, co-conspirators. I'll just call them that. And they're saying Sykes is so wrong. You said, Frank the Tank, but obviously the stock is just spiking so much. And here's what I think happened, because they did the one for 25 reverse split. And what happens with reverse splits is sometimes the brokers like get screwed up. Like, it was already a messed up situation where some brokers didn't specify that there was a reverse split. So people thought that like, the 50-cent stock was going up to $24 and they think they made like 50 times their money, but they forgot that there actually was a reverse split. It's all messed up with reverse splits. I usually stay away from reverse splits. I'm not shorting COSM. I didn't buy it either because I try to stay away from these sketchy situations. Why? Because again, I'm going for low stress and because I have experience with split stocks and reverse split stocks, and sometimes brokers screw up. I guess like TD Ameritrade, people were trying to sell and TD Ameritrade wouldn't let them sell. And they're all pissed at TD Ameritrade. This is the whole thing where the promoters create these little conspiracy theories like, oh, it's FINRA at fault. Oh, it's TD Ameritrade. Oh, it's Wall Street. It's them versus us. When it's really just the promoters. If you learn how corrupt and evil the promoters are, you start to see everything falls in place. So I'm not mad that this reverse stock split like turned into a short squeeze, because again, I think some people at TD Ameritrade and other brokers couldn't even sell their shares. And I don't even know what happens. Like if you're short a stock with a reverse split, did it recognize that you had all the new shares? Like mass confusion. So then the shorts get squeezed. And I know some shorts who got crushed on this, again, leading to me why I don't short sell. It goes against my low stress problem. But then all Frank the Tank and all the promoters are celebrating, like, look at this giant short squeeze. This is the future. And then after hours, it drops 70%. Like, just misinformation, promotion, confusion, short squeeze, broker errors. Like, this story has it all. And if you want low stress, you stay away. So again, I don't think that these promoted stocks are necessarily low stress, but like reverse stock splits, that's high stress. And so I just stay away, like it's funny if you look at like these conspiracy theories, people are like Sykes and his crew are shorting all this. It's shorting to store it, when in fact, I'm not shorting. And I'm just trying to get people to understand that when there's a promoter involved, expect the worst. Expect the worst from your longs, expect the worst from your shorts. And if you want somebody to blame, it's not your broker, it's not FINRA, it's the promoters. Because the promoters are the ones who are just lying to everybody. And I don't even know what the truth is. I'm just speculating why there was a short squeeze. I'm guessing it was Frank and his co-conspirators and, them understanding that maybe some people couldn't sell because of the reverse split. And then maybe some shorts freaked out. By the way, COSM, some like Frank and all these people are like, COSM is so special because they're trying to say, look, it spikes so much. This proves that it's special. It's not just COSM. NH also had a Friday short squeeze from the 1s to the 6s. And it also dropped 30% after hours. It didn't drop as much. It didn't, go up as much. But Friday short squeezes is a real thing. It's not that COSM is so special. It's not that, Frank is so special. If you look at the articles about last week, like it was one of the worst week in months. Guess what? It's options expiration. Okay. When it's options expiration week, especially on the Friday, that creates major volatility. It's not that COSM is so good. Again, the promoters put forth these lies, and whether it's bots or newbies who are brainwashed into believing them, Frank will likely be busted, over COSM. I don't know what he did. I just expect the worst out of all of them. He also promoted CLNV. CLNV, when he thought that I was shorting it, I was actually dip buying it in losing. That's why I call him Frank the Tank, because he couldn't bounce it, although he did bounce it on Thursday and Friday because, again, I don't think Frank wants to be investigated. I don't think any promoter really wants to be investigated, but they just will be because they're shady. I don't know what Frank got paid for CLNV, cash or stock. I don't care. I just expect the worst out of all of them. Frank even apologized when I was like, actually, all my trades are public. Like you can see, I haven't short sold a stock under $8 in 2 years. Why would I short sell an 8-cent stock? And he apologized. And I was like, I don't care about your apology. Like, you're just a liar. You're just a promoter. I'm never going to treat promoters with any respect because I know how bad their misinformation and their lies are and how it destroys people in their savings. Let me just show you a tweet. I went to Twitter and this pulled up. Actually, this was something I'm proud of. We're now building homes for families in need with my charity, and this was like a new home ceremony. The villagers go around the home and they ward off evil spirits. It's cute. It's like an ancient tradition here in Bali and Indonesia. So they went around. This is the new home, and the family before was just like sleeping on a tarp. Didn't even plan to show this, but it just popped up when I, pulled up my Twitter. But I also retweeted this. This actually matters where, Brandon says, this is what Timothy Sykes says all the time, especially the last webinar. And it's a stocks to trade graphic where I said, who wants to make a lot of money? Everyone raises their hand. And it's like, who wants to learn? If I had made this graphic, it would have been like, who wants to study? I think people do want to learn, but they don't want to study. They don't want to put in the time. And in case you wonder, like, oh, do I just have this is Eduardo, by the way, over 1 million. And this is the new school, by the way. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I don't have, aside from Eduardo, I didn't have any new millionaire students lately. So we couldn't just, the school had to open, and I didn't know when Eduardo would pass 1 million. I like to reward my millionaire students with their own school. But, this was cool, meeting with all the teachers of the new school. And I have videos and stuff like that. But if you follow me on Twitter, like you'll start to see why I teach the way that I do and why I think the way that I do. This is always sad though. I have a lot of tweets and blog posts. And by the way, this is where I've been working lately, with this crazy view here in Bali. There's actually pretty decent, Wi-Fi. But I wanted to show this. Yeah. So this is the tweet that I was going to. If you ever wonder why I come down so hard on promoters and their lies, this is what happens. And then I highlight a few of the past promoters that I busted. And this is, again, what happens more times than not, whether the newbies lose half their money, all their money, whether they're just like, I hate penny stocks, I hate the stock market, it's FINRA's fault. This is a tweet where saying, I remember being on Atlas when a guy named whatever was openly struggling with why he was always losing when PJ and others were allegedly always banking. PJ openly had a conversation with him telling it was his trading style that he shouldn't chase. PJ handed him a couple of other calls, which he totally lost his ass on and blew up. He killed himself a few days later, and the guy's sister came on there and shared the news. It was the saddest thing ever. This happens, okay? So it's all fun and games in trading until you lose all your money, until, you lose everything. And you just, this is the problem with promoters. Not only just are they destroying newbies and their savings, but they make the newbies feel like it's their fault. This is the thing, like with the promoters, why do they lie about me short selling? Because they're looking for somebody to blame. Why do they lie that FINRA is at fault when MMTLP dropped 80% and their whole lie about it going to 100 or 1,000 before, is what caused the drop? And, FINRA was probably right to halt it. FINRA and other, exchanges halt promoted stocks all the time. And, there was like a special type of halt for MMTLP. And I was like, I've seen literally hundreds of faults. And they're like, the promoters and their bots and their brainwashed newbies say, no, this specific type of halt has only happened 3 times. And I'm like, I don't care what type of halt it is. It's a promoted stock getting halted. When will you idiots wake up and realize it's the promoters? COSM, when you say that it's a short squeeze because the company is so good, no, it's not. It's just because a lot of people with brokerage accounts that are screwed up because the reverse split can't sell. It's not that COSM is so good. It's that the promoter's taking advantage of the fact that it's a sketchy situation. And then if you ever do believe the promoters and say COSM is going to the moon, and then it drops 70% in 3 hours. So long story short, expect the worst out of every company. Sometimes there will be short squeezes. Sometimes there will be dip buys. By all means, try to dip buy them. Try to ride the bounce a little bit. but at the same time, just never believe the hype, never believe promoters, because if you do, it ends badly. I don't want anybody losing all their money and killing themselves, but this is what happens with promoters. Rule number 1 is cut losses quickly. Rule number 2 is take singles, don't go for home runs. Rule number 3 is expect the worst out of everybody. Expect the worst out of me too, okay? Like I'm not immune to criticism. Like, oh, just because I teach and because I have 30 millionaires, 31 millionaires now, and because I show everything, like, I don't mind if you're skeptical. I would rather you be overly skeptical than overly naive, okay? Don't follow anybody's alerts. Don't chase any of these plays. Don't believe any promoters. Don't believe any random screen names. You have to recognize that this industry is full of crap. For me, I'm proud just to prove myself over time. I had another tweet. Let me just close with one last tweet, just so you can understand. I like Twitter just because people, say some good things. And where was it? Tim, I've been following you from the beginning. Thank you for all the free content you serve. Man of your word. I wish more people knew who you were. I try to tell everyone they got it all figured out. Willing, honest, openness goes a lot further than ego. Yeah, I'm glad to help. That wasn't the tweet that I wanted to show. I don't know. There was somebody else who said, like, I wish I had listened to you from the beginning. Let me see. I never traded your strategy, but prior to the Atlas hitting the scene, $300 I spent with you probably saved me tens of thousands I would have lost not being able to recognize they were scamming. Oh, that's a nice little tweet. I don't know. I probably should have planned this, but it's in the middle of the night here in Bali, and I actually have to wake up in a few hours. We have another new school opening. So, long story short, be skeptical. Learn the 7-step framework. I'm going to link this. This is a blog post I wrote years ago. There's a whole guide called the 7-step framework. I'm shocked, and you can see here my internet's not that great. I'm shocked that the 7-step framework still works so well, frankly. But you can see it over a time and again. And this actually worked on a lot of cryptos too. Anytime you have these promotions, it's really crazy how, like, you have like this kind of like ramp up, and it starts slow and then it speeds up. Then you get the big crash and then a little bounce, then another crash and then a little bounce, and like it's kind of like a bouncing ball on the right hand side. And this is what happens. Some people say, like, why am I not, just dip buying crypto? I do think crypto, the technology, has some use in the future, and maybe it will come back. But like, this is usually number 7. This is the long kiss goodnight. And if you, ever doubt this chart, again, what's the best thing to trust? Like, the only thing that you can trust in this industry is price action. ENZC had a ton of promoters. What does it look like now? Oh, it's a 7-step framework to a T. OZSC. I'll bring up thousands of examples. Okay. If I wanted to do a all day long webinar, I could literally go through like tens of thousands of examples like this over the years. AITX. I think the CEO talked crap about me on this too. It's not that they never bounce. Mind you, this is very important. When these things bounce like 30 or 50 or 100%, they're like, oh, I thought this was a promo. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And you can see these little bounces. This is a classic number 6 and a number 7 from my 7-step framework. ALPP was higher priced, but had a ton of promoters. They even raised, I think, did they raise 50 million or 40 million? They had a big fundraiser. But again, it fits the same pattern because it had so many promoters. When you have so many promoters, it's the kiss of death. Somebody is paying those promoters in cash or stock to get the share price up. The share price does go up, especially in 2020 and 2021, but it never ends well. And again, I can just pull, HQGE. This was another one I was rumored to be, short, which I never was. I was just, buying it. I don't mind buying promoted stocks. You just have to know how it ends. GTLL is another one. They're all, it's just really sad. Look at this. Now it's 0.00015. Some people say, oh, it didn't go to 0. Yeah, 0.00015. My bad. Anyways, I'll link the 7-step framework. Do me a favor. Leave a comment below. Tell me that you're going to be, cynical and safe. You can go through my tweets. You can go through these chart patterns. The more you study the past, the more you distrust promoters. Ignore conspiracy theories against brokers or FINRA. It's just the promoters. And once you learn how evil promoters are, and once you learn how brainwashed a lot of newbies are because of the promoters, you'll start to understand why I come down on them so hard. So stay safe. I'll see you in chat. A lot of plays in the coming days, so try to get sleep whenever you can. That's a lesson for me too right now. Cheers.